Howdy, folks. Thanks for tuning in to another Cruise of Smooth. Hope you're doing okay today. Thanks for tuning in. I'll tell you what, there's just been so much going on in the world. The Israel, Palestine, Gaza Strip. I don't know what the answer is to that. That's been kind of on my mind a lot lately. I've gone through all of it rather extensively from a lot of news sources, and I know kind of what's spurred the most recent outbreak of violence. But it's just so frustrating that so many members of the U.S. media and the U.S. politicians are for us, are calling out our allies in this. That doesn't make sense to me. I've listened to a lot of people in interviews that have been over in that part of the world. I've never traveled internationally before. There are very few places that hold interest to me, and oddly enough, the places that I would most want to go are places that I wouldn't go. I think it would be awesome to tour Russia, and then I would never go where I'm about to mention. But I think it'd just be so cool to see such a different way of life. North Korea, I'd never go. But I've never traveled internationally. But all that said, you can listen to people that have been in these various places in the world and learn a lot of information from them. How people live, what the culture's like in various places. And I'm not going to, based on the evidence that I've found, the testimonies, and, the timeline of everything, the Palestinians did, in my opinion, start the most recent round of violence. The Israelis have done everything in their power to minimize the innocent body count. But a lot of people have said that, it's not fair to punch down on someone that's kicking you. And here's kind of my entire take on that. First off, if there was a court ruling where a few Canadians that were living in the United States hadn't paid rent for years and were about to get evicted so the owners could do what they wanted with their property, and Canada started lobbing rockets into the United States, what do you expect the military response to be? Would there be a military response? Would there be a diplomatic response? I don't know. I know if I were in charge, wherever the rockets were coming from would be desolate by the time I got done. And I remember a few years back during the Obama administration, there were U.S. Customs and Border Protection helicopters that were taking fire from cartels in northern Mexico right on the border when the choppers were in U.S. airspace and just patrolling the border. And my entire take on it is I would send a unit over the border and they would be sent with very specific instructions, and then there would be a letter sitting on the Mexican president or prime minister's desk the next day saying, if this happens again, we go further. But there would be lots of chaos and destruction behind this group of men that I would send into Mexico. Anyway, all that said, I have not been in a lot of fights. Most people tend to not try to start stuff with someone when you're 6'4". Just haven't been in a lot of fights. One of the fights I got in as a kid, though, oddly enough, I was at a church and involved in a youth function or something. Anyway, one of them was a 2-on-1 fight. These two kids decided they were going to try to beat me up, and I did not fight fair. I caught a couple shots to the side of the face, and I literally grabbed that person, picked them up, and slammed them down on concrete, and then kicked them repeatedly. And then they stopped. The other person, they wouldn't let me get a hold of them or stay close enough to land a blow, so, that just they didn't hurt me, I couldn't really hurt them. I think I might have slid them across the floor once, but that was about it. Another fight I got into was a few years after this. This kid kept picking on me out in the parking lot, and he kept throwing stuff at me. I said, "You're gonna stop." "No, I'm not. You're not gonna make me." "You're gonna stop." And he was throwing I guess tennis ball, what it was. I don't know, it's been forever. Throwing a tennis ball or something at me. Enough of a sting to it. And he's like, "You're not gonna make me." I'm like, "I'm gonna make you. You're gonna stop. Next time something happens." Did it again after a couple minutes. Put my forearm like so, right there, marched him straight backwards into like an 8-foot tall concrete retaining wall. Grabbed a fistful of his hair and then proceeded to bang his head repeatedly into the concrete. He said, "That hurts." I'm like, "It's supposed to." I stopped. He said he'd stop. He started up, throwing tennis balls at me a few minutes later. And so I repeated the lesson until it took. The thing that I've never understood when talking about doing violent actions to others to make them stop, and this is whether you're in a fist fight, whether someone has pulled a knife on you, whether someone's broke into your house and you're protecting your house with a gun at night, whether you're involved in war, whether you're doing whatever. The whats don't matter about this. When I was involved in those fist fights, I was doing everything I could, as fast as I could, to make them stop as fast as I could. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to hurt them. They've made me hurt them, and so I hurt them as much and as quick as I could. When the United States decided to enter into the fray in World War II, they did everything they could to cause as much chaos for Nazi Germany, bombing whatever they could. And you could argue that would be unethical, and frankly I might agree with you, but you can't argue with surrender. And same goes for Japan. If someone were to, people talk about, guns and shooting in self-defense and, well, shoot to wound. Well, first off, there have been numerous instances, and I've watched the body cam footage, where people might be on drugs and they do not respond the same way being shot that most other people do. The drugs impede the nervous system, relaying pain to the body or to the brain, so they don't process pain as easily. And a lot of times they'll continue to attack, fight, advance, shoot, whatever. Matter of fact, interesting sidebar, that's why the .45 was invented. The U.S. Army was shooting .38 ACPs back during the Spanish-American War. Now, when was it? I can't remember the war, but anyway, moving on. And anyway, they were in a Mexican-American War. Sorry, had a moment. And they were shooting soldiers that were oftentimes on drugs, and when they would shoot them with 38 ACP or 38 Special even, they would still keep coming and attacking. And a lot of times these mortally wounded, or these wounded soldiers would end up killing healthy American soldiers because they were on drugs, and the guns weren't doing enough damage to stop them immediately. So, people went to the drawing board, and behold, the .45 ACP is born, because sometimes short, fat, and lazy will do the job. And for those of you that have never seen the exit wounds that come from a .45 compared to a .38, that will explain a lot. A well-placed small caliber bullet shot is capable of doing the damage necessary to stop a person dead in their tracks. However, it's not entirely likely. .45 is much more likely that you will do that even with a poor placed shot, just due to the sheer amount of energy transferred into target. Not trying to be overly graphic, just being honest. So, good grief, people are driving crazy today. So that's something that I never understood, though. Like, because if someone breaks into my house, I'm going to shoot them until they stop. I'm not going to shoot their kneecap or shoot them in the shin or try to shoot the gun out of their hand. Now, one time I got lucky shooting at the target, you know, the silhouette guys holding the gun on you. I got lucky and I was able to pull that off. I shot the gun out of the silhouette's hand. That's a lucky shot. And I'll admit that. And I double tapped. I shot the gun out of his hand on one shot, and then I parted his hair with the other, so the second shot did no good. But anyway, that's one argument I never understood, because if you have someone on drugs or someone that's just determined that they're going to do you harm, there's no guarantee that that a wound or slow shot is going to stop them. And one of my coworkers said something a long time ago. He's like, you know, if someone broke into my house, if they're going to get me, they're going to have to get to me through a wall of bullets. He's like, I could live with myself knowing that I did something terrible to protect myself and my family. He's like, I don't know if I could live with myself, whatever happened, knowing I did nothing. Fair enough. So, I just don't understand this taking half measures. You know, the United States Army... Come on, baby. Let's go. I'm going to have to get off this road here in just a second. I got to get around a mess of traffic. I apologize. The United States Army beat Germany, which had one of the most impressive militaries at the time of going into World War II. One of the most impressive militaries on the planet, into utter submission in just a few years. And realistically, I think it was... I'm getting the dates mixed up. I apologize. But in just a few short years, because they were willing to do whatever it took to ensure total victory. And they were not taking half measures. Fast forward to Vietnam, half measures, lots of micromanagement, and everyone knows the history of that. So, I don't know that I have much to add to all the news comment. Oh my gosh. This is fantastic. Apologize for my frustration, folks. They've got construction traffic on my main route home, and I can't get around it. And then the detour is parking lot. This is going to take at least 10 minutes to get to the stoplight or stop sign. Anyway, I just don't understand the moral equivalency that's being played a lot here, and I don't understand the call to equal response. Now, I don't think that anything particularly deserves the nuclear option, but I do think that a harsh enough response to ensure that they don't want to do it again to find out what the next step is can always be appropriate. Why are you honking at me, dude? I literally can't go nowhere. But I'm about to pull a U-turn and go another way because this is going to take forever. So, anyway, I guess that's what I got. I don't get it. When I was in those fistfights, I did not particularly enjoy any aspect of it, and I wanted it over as quick as possible. And I was doing whatever I had to do to get it over as quick as possible. That's what I got. Catch y'all next time. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Give me a like, share, comment, subscribe if you like my take on stuff. Sorry I was a little rambly today. It's been a long week. Take care.